Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We go back 76 years to March 20th, 1947. Crime drama, an episode of Mutual's Crime Club program, Dead Men Control. And thanks for joining us on this Monday. This is the 20th day of March. It happens to be the 79th day of the year, and there are 286 days remaining. March 20th, the usual date of the vernal equinox. That means the first day of spring. Although we're not going to have spring here for a very long time in the mountains of northern Nevada. We've still got about a foot of snow here. 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, published in 1852. 1916, Albert Einstein published his theory of relativity. The USS Langley commissioned on this date in 1922 as the first U.S. Navy aircraft carrier. 1933, Giuseppe Zangra executed in Florida's electric chair for fatally shooting Anton Cermak in an assassination attempt against Franklin Delano Roosevelt. In a speech in Australia prior to meeting with President Roosevelt, General Douglas MacArthur on this date in 1944 stressed the moral obligation of the U.S. to free the Philippines before moving to assist Formosa.
2 years ago, when I landed on your soil, I said to the people of the Philippines whence I came, I shall return.
Now, MacArthur ordered out of the Philippines by the president in 1942. He returned in October with troops of the 6th Army, and by the end of 1945, the bloody battle over the Philippines was over. In Gibraltar on this date in 1969, John Lennon and Yoko Ono were married. 1976, Harris Patty Hearst convicted of bank robbery and using a firearm in a felony. Hearst had allegedly been kidnapped by a group called the Symbionese Liberation Army and brainwashed into committing the act, giving her the name Tanya.
Greetings to the people. This is Tanya. On April 15th, my comrades and I expropriated $10,660.02 from the Sunset branch of the Hibernia Bank. My gun was loaded, and at no time did any of my comrades intentionally point their guns at me.
Is that so? Well, no, because there are other pictures where they are pointing their guns at me, and they did say they would kill me if I didn't do exactly what they said.
President Carter would commute her sentence to the 22 months served with severe limitations in 1979, Bill Clinton giving Hearst a full pardon on his last day in office in 2001. The Food and Drug Administration on this date in 1987 approved the anti-AIDS drug AZT. In 1991, Eric Clapton's 4-year-old son Connor died after falling from the 53rd floor window of his mother's friend's New York City apartment. Clapton co-wrote a song, Tears from Heaven, with help from Will Jennings. It would be Clapton's single biggest hit. It reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles charts in the U.S. Jamil Abdullah Alamin, a former Black Panther once known as H. Rat Brown, captured on this date in 2000 after a gun battle that left a Georgia sheriff's deputy dead. A federal judge ruled on this date in 2000 that Elian Gonzalez, a Cuban refugee whose mother fled to the U.S. but drowned in the journey, had to be returned to his father in Cuba.
It has been 4 months since Elian was separated from his father and lost his mother. It is time for this little boy, who has been through so very much, to move on with life at his father's side.
Gonzalez forcibly removed at gunpoint by federal agents and returned to his father to Cuba. And we understand Elian is doing well today. He's graduated from school and has a job, and we understand he himself now is a father. In 2015, a solar eclipse, equinox, and a supermoon, all occurring on that same date in 2015. passing away on this date in history. Sir Isaac Newton, Marilyn Maxwell, actors, did a lot of touring with Bob Hope, journalist Chet Huntley, also comedian Louis Grizzard, pro wrestlers Big John Studd and Sailor Art Thomas, and Kenny Rogers. His Kenny Rogers Roasters, no longer in business in America, but it's all over the Philippines. And the chicken's good. Let's see, born on this date in history, Sergei Rachmaninoff, Edgar Buchanan, Uncle Joe in Petticoat Junction, Ozzie Nelson, born on this date, Vera Lynn, who passed away in 2020 at the age of 103, and even at the age of 93, she had an interview with a Netherlands television interviewer, Marlies Klaassen, and they sung together Auf Wiedersehen, Sweetheart. She still had a great voice at the age of 93. Jack Barry, TV host involved in the quiz show scandals, but came back to do things like The Joker's Wild, and Break the Bank. Jazz musician Marion McPartland, delightful. Ray Goulding of Bob and Ray fame, born on this date.
What have you been doing since we saw you last?
Well, we have an ice cream truck out here in the suburbs. And, we have our specials. Cherry Jubilee, Maple Walnut, Butter Crunch. Hey, but you know what? You can have all the specials you want, but you still sell more vanilla ice cream than anything else. Put your money on vanilla, Barbara, Ray. That's the ice cream that people want. No, full it. Vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking with us. Good luck to both of you.
Well, thanks. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Bob. Really, we've enjoyed it very much.
Bob Elliott, Ray Goulding, born on this date in history. Saxophonist Larry Elgart, born today, along with Carl Reiner, the fine director and comedian. John Ehrlichman from the Watergate. Mr. Rogers, born on this date. Ted Bessel, you remember him with Marlo Thomas and That Girl. The man who did the first family albums about the Kennedys, Von Meter, born on this date. Jerry Reed, Eastbound and Down. Very delightful musician and a funny man, too. And from Body Heat and Gorky Park, William Hurt, born on this date. He passed away a year ago, just days before his 72nd birthday. Barney Miller's Hal Linden, still with us at 92. Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Carl Palmer, 73. Film director Spike Lee, 66. Holly Hunter, 65. Sting, still actively wrestling and doing crazy stuff at 64 years of age. Model Kathy Ireland is 60. And Kim Possible, Christy Carlson Romano, 39 years old today. Though some of the people celebrating the 20th day of March is their birthday. If this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
76 years ago, March 20th, 1947, The Crime Club. That's coming up next on this Monday. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back 76 years, March 20th, 1947, for The Crime Club. This episode entitled Dead Men Control.
Hello, I hope I haven't kept you waiting. Yes, this is the Crime Club. I'm the librarian. Dead Man Control. Yes, we have that Crime Club story for you. Come right over. Ah, you're here. Good. Take the easy chair by the window. Comfortable? The book is on this shelf. Here it is. Dead Man Control by Helen Riley. The very absorbing story of a murder in which Cupid held the hand of death. Let's look at it under the reading lamp. It was late morning, and in the library of a mansion on East 67th Street, multimillionaire Fenimore Kingston was standing before the wall safe he had just opened. He smiled, and then as he reached in... 2 hours later, Inspector Christopher McKee was in his office at police headquarters on Center Street when the telephone rang.
Inspector McKee talking, Homicide Bureau.
Good morning. This is Catherine Kingston.
Yes?
Mrs. Fenimore Kingston.
Oh, yes?
My husband's been murdered. Can you come?
Where?
Our home is on East 67th Street.
All right, I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Cassidy, order my car. We're going uptown.
Yes, sir. And how are you...
And don't stop to ask about anybody's health. I'm in a hurry. Please go on, Mrs. Kingston.
Well, Inspector, as soon as I saw that open wall safe, I thought my husband had been killed by a burglar.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was waiting for you, I checked the contents. The money and the bonds were still there. But...
Yes?
The diamond ring that Fenimore gave me after our wedding 3 months ago, that's gone.
That wouldn't be the well-publicized Kingston diamond, would it?
It would, Inspector. And it's worth $500,000.
Yes, but the cash on those negotiable bonds.
I can't understand why they weren't taken too.
Very unusual thief, to say the least. Where were you when the miracle happened?
Out. I went out early this morning. I was restless.
Why?
I was tired of doing nothing. So I took the car and drove until I was tired of driving.
Alone?
Inspector McKee.
Don't be alarmed, Mrs. Kingston. I'm not insinuating.
But your tone...
Merely professional. Now, according to the medical examiner, your husband was shot in the back and death was instantaneous about 2 hours ago. Who was in the house with him then?
I don't know.
What about the servants? Did they go out driving too?
We have no servants.
In this big house?
They quit last night.
Oh?
Don't let it surprise you, Inspector. Fenimore was not an easy person to get along with.
Mrs. Kingston, for your special information, I don't let anything surprise me.
Excuse me, sir.
What is it, Cassidy?
It's about the murder weapon.
Did you find it?
No, sir. There ain't a trace of it in the house. And me and the boys have looked in every nook and...
All right, Cassidy, all right.
Yes, sir. Oh, my.
What's the matter?
Over there, Inspector. Peep it out from under that corner of the window drape. It shines like a diamond.
It is a diamond.
Well, if it is, then the saints preserve us. It must be as big as an eyeball.
Yes. Well, Mrs. Kingston?
My ring.
No burglary, huh?
It doesn't seem so, does it? But how did that ring get under the drape?
The law of gravity. It fell when your husband fell, after he was shot. And it either rolled or bounced. You can take your pick.
I'll take the ring if you don't mind.
Later. Right now, it's evidence.
But it's mine.
We'll take good care of it. Come on, Cassidy.
Well, I'll be finished here, sir.
For the time being, goodbye, Mrs. Kingston.
Goodbye, Inspector.
Cassidy.
Inspector McKee, if it's one question I might ask.
Go ahead.
What's the ring got to do with the cadaver we carried upstairs?
I think it killed him.
The devil you say.
Don't lead me on, Sergeant. I have no time to explain.
If you say so, Inspector.
Going back to my office. I want you to go to the telephone company. Get a list of every call that's been made from or to this house in the last 2 days. Report to me at headquarters.
Yes, sir. But there's one thing that...
Now what?
But it's that girl in there, Mrs. Kingston.
Uh-huh.
Now, I've been on the force for 32 years, and it's a fine education I've got about the good and the bad in
Not
people.
now, Cassidy.
When a girl, young and beautiful, marries a man twice her age and a millionaire, she didn't marry him for love.
Hello?
Oh. Is this Michael Dolger's apartment?
Yes?
Who is this?
Amy Cloverton, why?
This is Catherine Kingston. Let me talk to Michael, please.
You might ask me how I'm feeling.
Please, Amy.
After all, you did get what I wanted.
I want to speak to Michael.
I'll ask him how he feels about it. Hold the wire. And don't wind it too tightly around your neck, dear.
Hello, Kathy.
What's she doing there?
Oh, she just dropped in for a cocktail.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I want you to meet me right away.
Where?
Central Park, inside the 72nd Street entrance. I'll pick you up in my car.
All right. But what's the rumpus about?
Fenimore's dead.
What did you say?
He was murdered this morning.
Good grief. Maybe Maybe I'd better come over.
No, the police are here, dozens of them, all over the place. Meet me in half an hour, and come alone.
How'd you manage it?
I didn't.
What?
I couldn't get out without being seen. Michael, I'm in trouble.
But if the police followed you...
Is that all you care about? Your precious hide?
Well, it's the only one I've got.
Well, you don't have to worry. I wasn't followed.
Are you sure?
Yes, look for yourself. Is there a police car behind us?
No, but...
Michael, really, I'm in serious trouble.
How was Fenimore killed?
He was shot. And the police think I did it.
You? Have they said so?
Well, not in words, they haven't. That Inspector McKee, he thinks he's very clever.
Well, you should have left me alone, Kathy.
I couldn't. I had to speak to you.
Now, why didn't you do it on the phone?
I didn't want to incriminate you.
What?
Suppose one of those policemen had been listening at the door.
Well, suppose.
He'd have heard me asking you about that appointment you had with Fenimore this morning.
That I had?
Just about the time he was killed.
Now, wait a minute. I had no appointment with Fenimore.
That's not the truth. He phoned you and asked you to come over.
Did he tell you that?
No.
Then how do you know so much?
I was listening in on the upstairs extension.
Oh. How much did you hear?
He wanted you to meet him at the house at 11 o'clock. It was very important.
Anything else?
No, I put the receiver down. It was 10:30, and I wanted to be out of the house before you arrived.
Really?
I didn't know what he was going to talk to you about. I was afraid it might be us.
So you ran away. That's too bad.
Why?
Because if you'd stayed, you'd have learned something.
Didn't he talk to you about us?
No, dear.
Well, then what did he?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
What?
That's right. Fenimore wanted to see me, but I didn't want to see him, and I told him so.
You told Fenimore?
Yes, I did. The great mammon. Or was it about time?
I'd like to believe that, Mike.
Then do. I got tired of being my cousin's errand boy and of running to him every time he beckoned.
But your allowance...
I told him what to do with that, too. But it doesn't make any difference now, does it?
No.
You're free. And we'll have all the money we both need.
That's putting it very bluntly.
Why not? He never cared for anyone, including you. You were the most beautiful thing he ever saw, and he wanted you. It's just as simple as that.
I know all about it, Mike.
All right. I'll shut up. Kathy?
Yes?
Did you really go out this morning?
I said I did.
Of course. But I was just thinking, what a wonderful opportunity you had, alone in that house with him.
Yeah? Uh-huh. Good work, Gordon. Let me know when she gets back.
Can I come in, Inspector?
Help yourself, Cassidy.
Well, I checked with the telephone company, sir, and it's big news, if I don't mind saying it myself.
Yes? Anything like Catherine Kingston going out to meet a man?
A what?
You've heard of the species, Cassidy. And I'm sure you've heard of Central Park.
Is that where she went with him?
Mm-hmm.
In broad daylight?
There's no topping an Irishman, is there?
Well, not if he comes from the County Cork, sir. Who's the man?
We don't know yet, but he's being tailed. Now, what did you find out at the telephone company?
Oh, wait, here's a list of all the cars that came and went from the Kingston house in the last couple of days.
Good.
But it's them last three that was made this morning.
Yes, all outgoing. One at 10:30, one at 10:35.
And Kingston was killed at about 11.
And this one at 1:45. Oh, a few minutes after we left Mrs. Kingston.
That's right.
Who were these calls made to, Cassidy?
But I got that on another slip of paper. Now, where the... Oh, yeah, here it is. Now, the first one and the last one to Michael Dolge.
So that's the man.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Cassidy. I'm just checking.
He was the dead man's cousin.
How do you know?
Well, I remember seeing his name in the papers after the Kingston wedding. Seems to me he was either the best man or one of the ushers. But it's not him I'd be worrying about, sir.
No? Why not?
It's that woman. The one who got the call at 10:35.
What woman?
Amy Claubertson.
No answer. Michael Doe's most likely out with Catherine Kingston. Yeah. What'd you say about a woman?
Amy Claubertson.
Well, what about her?
Well, see, you know how I read the newspapers every day.
I know.
Well, after I get through with the sporting pages, I always turn to the society page. It's an old habit of mine. I acquired it 32 years ago when I was a rookie on that Fifth Avenue beat. You know Fifth Avenue uptown, where Central Park lies opposite them glorious mansions with the beautiful...
Sit down, Cassidy.
Well, thank you. Me, them were fine old days. People used to come from all over just to look at the Woolworth building.
Don't let me interrupt you, but you were telling me about a woman.
A woman?
Yes, in connection with a murder.
March 20th, 1947, The Crime Club, Dead Men Control. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station. The news from 76 years ago today follows these important messages. Here's Mike Lindell talking about getting your best friend something special.
And Mike, you've done it again. You've brought us an amazing line of dog beds.
This has been a long time coming. It starts with the same patented fill for your dogs now as we do my pillow. I wanted everything covered in sizes from your largest dog to your smallest dog. You can throw them in the washer and dryer. The dogs love it. They asked, and here they are. This is why you get the dog bed. This is the main reason. The dogs love it.
And you've got that 10-year warranty, right?
I can do it because the dogs love it. They don't want to wreck their bed.
And you can get these MyPillow dog beds at a price lower than the big box stores, as low as $19.95. Call 1-800-928-4715, 1-800-928-4715, or go to mypillow.com/pet and use my promo code Wyatt. Treat your best friend to a MyPillow dog bed, mypillow.com/pet. Promo code Wyatt. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We're listening to an episode of The Crime Club. This episode originally broadcast on Thursday, March 20th, 1947. In the newspapers of that Thursday, 76 years ago, these were some of the headlines. Undersecretary of State Dean Acheson expressed conviction today that American help for Greece and Turkey to block the spread of communism will not lead to war. That question raised by Congressman Mansfield, the Democrat from Montana, as the House Foreign Affairs Committee questioned Acheson on President Truman's broad goal to spend money, material, and military missions to the two Mediterranean countries. Acheson hesitated for a moment and then solemnly declared, "I was going to say no possibility that it would lead to war." He paused again and then added, "I don't think it could lead to war. By strengthening the forces of democracy and freedom, you do a great deal to eliminate the friction between great powers." Governor Melvin E. Thompson cheered today by the Georgia legislature as he proclaimed that law and order had returned to the state. But the assembly listened in silence as he criticized Herman Talmadge as a party bolter and as he assailed Talmadge-sponsored white supremacy legislation. The joint session of the House and Senate met to hear Thompson only a few minutes after the Senate had killed a proposed 3% retail sales tax, the only revenue measure before the legislature. The jammed House chamber with overflow galleries heard Thompson declare that Talmadge and his political lieutenants no longer could speak for the Democrat Party in Georgia. The new governor, whose claim was sustained yesterday by the state Supreme Court, was cheered as he promised to pay Georgia's school teachers even if other services were curtailed. While two small children and a woman watched, a 60-year-old widower jumped into a ring of flames he had set and burned to death on a baseball diamond last night. The victim, identified police Lieutenant Vincent Mann as William H. Mathewson, doused his clothing in a small section of the ground with gasoline, then lit the fuel and stepped into the fire to his death. Secretary Marshall served notice to the foreign ministers in Moscow today that he would propose that Austrian government representation be summoned to Moscow for consultation as needed in drafting the Austrian peace treaty. The American stand was made known after a session in which France contended she could not agree to economic reconstitution of Germany unless other powers agreed to her demands for guarantees of German coal. Secretary of War Patterson told senators today the old idea of voluntary cooperation between the Army and Navy received its death blow at Pearl Harbor. Patterson offered this opinion to the Senate Armed Services Committee. He supported legislation to unify the present separate War and Navy departments into a single national defense establishment with Army, Navy, and Air Force departments. Secretary of Navy Forrestal already has testified favoring the measure. Those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Thursday, March 20th, 1947. On your radio, The Crime Club. We'll hear the conclusion following these important messages on this Monday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Comedy on Tuesday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet from 72 years ago, March 21st, 1952, The Ego Builder. Harriet has been chosen as an alternate for a PTA meeting. Ozzie thinks that Harriet lacks confidence. We'll see how much confidence Harriet lacks on tomorrow's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now the conclusion of The Crime Club, 76 years ago today, March 20th, 1947.
Amy Clobertson. Well, so seeing her name again brought to mind a society page item of about 5 months ago.
To the effect
that Amy Clobertson and Fenimore Kingston were engaged to be married.
Cassidy, you sure?
That I am, sir, because the diamond ring was mentioned in the same article.
How?
Well, she wore it at the formal reception.
I see.
And not 2 months later, Fenimore Kingston married Catherine. It's the old story, Inspector.
Not another one, please.
The woman scorns. There's no fury like a woman who expects to marry a millionaire and gets jilted.
Yes. Yes. There's no doubt about it. All right, I'll pick it up on the way out. Well.
Oh, bad news, Inspector.
For someone, that was a lab dust phone. The ring we found is a phony. A perfect imitation.
You mean it's made of glass?
Not quite. Somebody had a good job done for a few $100s, and the original, valued at $500,000...
Well, it might be somewhere in a vault, maybe. Lots of people wear paste and keep their valuables locked up.
Cassidy.
Yes, sir.
Phone the Kingston house. Tell the men to turn that place inside out.
Yes, sir.
And when you get through, take as many men as you need and contact every diamond cutter in town, especially the ones around Maiden Lane.
Yes, sir.
Now, where's that slip of paper with the names on it?
Yeah, it's right here, sir. The addresses, too.
Give it to me. I'm going out to pay Amy Culbertson a visit. Excuse me.
I don't want any.
Inspector McKee, police.
I still don't want any, but you can come in. There's scotch on the table. Cigarettes if you didn't bring your own.
No, thanks.
Suit yourself. What do you want?
Sit down, please.
You're here to ask a lot of questions about Fenimore Kingston's murder. Don't waste your breath because I don't know any of the answers.
How do you know about his murder?
Radio told me.
Not today, Miss Robertson. Why don't you sit down?
Maybe I don't want to.
Would you have any reason to protect Catherine Kingston?
Not one. Well, here's to you.
Michael Dole? Sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off guard.
Why'd you mention his name to me?
This pack of matches with his name on the cover.
You're pretty smart, aren't you?
I have a weakness for matches that are left on tables.
All right, so he told me about Fenimore's death. I was at his apartment when Catherine phoned. She told him. Anything else you'd like to know?
What time did you meet Fenimore Kingston this morning?
I did what?
He phoned you at 10:35.
How'd you find out about that?
You just told me.
What? Why, you wheedling weasel.
Shall we talk now?
Pitch curves and have me swing at him.
I'd like to know about you and Fenimore Kingston.
I'm through talking to you.
Are you? Then suppose we go down to headquarters.
What for?
We're very lonesome.
Now, wait a minute. Let me go. I haven't done anything.
What about you and Kingston?
We were engaged, and then he jilted me and married that...
Yes?
Catherine and I were in the same show. I met Fenimore at a party, and he fell for me like a ton of diamonds. And then, like a fool, I introduced him to Catherine.
Why did he phone you this morning?
He wanted a date.
Now, look, Miss Cloverton.
That's the truth. Told me he was going to divorce Catherine. He found out about her and Michael. He thought I knew something, too.
And, of course, you rushed over to Michael's apartment and told him.
Not exactly. I tried to make it casual.
3 hours later?
Mike and I were in the same boat. Both of us had been kicked around by Fenimore. That was a common bond.
So you waited from 10:35 until almost 2.
Still pitching curves, aren't you?
Was it because you tried to get his apartment in the morning and couldn't?
No.
Or didn't you even try?
What do you want from me? I didn't kill anybody.
Fenimore didn't call you to talk about his wife.
Then I don't know what he did call me for.
He asked you about this ring.
What? Where'd you...
You wore it for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, but I gave it back.
This one?
Look, mister, there's only one of its kind in the world.
Why did he call you about it?
Because he thought...
Yes?
Nothing.
He thought you'd know a good imitation from the real thing.
You mean that diamond's a fake?
We'll find out soon enough, if you're really surprised. Goodbye, for now.
Oh, you going?
Sorry?
Oh, I'm collapsing. Drop in again sometime. Anytime.
Thanks. And let's hope I don't have to return that invitation.
Hello, Michael.
Amy, what are you doing here?
Figured she'd drive you home. She was always the lady. Get back in the car.
Now, see here,
Get
Amy.
back or I'll make a scene that'll turn you both into mummies.
Better do as she says, Michael.
All right, Kathy.
I'll be right behind you, kiddies, in the back seat. Now, Catherine, who told Inspector McKee about me?
What?
About Fenimore having phoned me this morning.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you know he phoned me, don't you?
No.
Oh, you couldn't tell the truth if you had a mouthful of it and it was choking.
Wait a minute, Amy.
She's trying to frame me. And she'll frame you, too.
What was Fenimore talking to you about?
Ask her. She was tuned into the extension.
Were you, Kathy?
No.
She had to be. How else?
She said no, Amy.
All right, so she said no. How did Inspector McKee know that I talked to Fenimore and about the diamond, too?
The diamond?
Yes. Maybe you didn't know that beautiful thing was just a hunk of glass.
That's a lie.
Well, it wasn't when Fenimore asked me about it this morning. He wanted me to return the original.
Oh, is that why you killed him?
Oh, I knew that was coming out of you. You'd like the police to think that, wouldn't you?
Maybe they already do.
Well, that wouldn't put you in the clear, Kathy, darling. I returned the original to Fenimore.
Can you prove it?
Can you prove that I didn't? Wind her up, Michael. She seems to have run down.
I think you said enough, Amy.
I'm through. And so is she. For good, I hope.
Inspector McKee, homicide.
Cassidy talking, sir.
Go ahead.
I think I found him, Inspector.
Who?
The diamond-cutting fella.
Good. What does he say about the Kingston diamond?
Well, sir, it might be the man and it might not.
What?
Well, I found him in a small room on the top floor of a small building just around the corner off Maiden Lane. There was no name on the door, just the words diamond cutting. But I took a chance anyway. And it's a good thing I did, Inspector.
No.
For there was that poor old fella stretched out on the floor, dead.
Oh, no.
A little fella he was, too. And beaten around the head unmerciful.
What's the address?
Yeah, but I got it written down on a piece of paper. Now, where the... Oh, yes, here it is. It's up here, Inspector.
All right, Cassidy, I'm doing the best I can.
Well, I got some information, sir. I checked with some of the neighbors on this floor.
Where's the body?
Well, I'll take you to it, sir. Well, as I was saying, I checked. And the fellow's name was Rudolph Leibniz.
What else?
Well, that's all, sir. He came over from the other side a few years ago. A victim of war and oppression. And to think that his only reward for minding his own
How do you know he was minding his own business?
Well, his reputation in the trade, Inspector, was good. He was known to all his neighbors as an honest man, a good worker, and a fine, upstanding character. And when your competitors have only
Is
praise
this the room,
for
Cassidy?
Yes, sir. There he is.
Yeah.
A little old fella.
Why didn't you tell me his files had been opened and dumped?
Well, I was going to,
well,
Chief.
It doesn't matter. Somebody wanted a record and they took it.
You think this can be an outcome of the Kingston murder?
Maybe. Let's have a look at the body.
He didn't have a chance. Struck on the back of the head and then beaten until he
Cassidy.
was... Yes?
This man's been dead since this morning. Late this morning.
Would you be sure about that?
Rigor mortis takes at least 6 hours to set in. It's just beginning.
Then it'd be about the time Fenimore Kingston was murdered.
A little later, but not much. The killer came right from the Kingston house to this place and... All right, Cassidy, there's no point in searching the room.
No, sir?
We won't find anything.
Oh.
Hello, operator. Give me police headquarters.
Have you got a plan, sir?
I hope so, Cassidy. Hello. Give me Murphy and homicide. Inspector McKee. I hope so, Cassidy. If it works, it'll be a miracle.
Well, talking of
Hello,
miracles,
Murph.
there was a...
I want you to have the following 3 parties picked up. All right? Catherine Kingston, Michael Dolge, and A.B. Cloverson. You'll find the addresses on my desk and keep them in my office until I get there. Now, as for you, Cassidy.
Yes, sir.
You stay here. Phone the medical examiner's office and look after the usual details. I'm going out for a long walk.
Yes, sir.
Those people will wait, even if they don't like it. And let's hope they don't like it enough to burn.
Inspector McKee.
Well, company. How are you, Mrs. Kingston?
Why did you have me brought here? And
Miss
why
Robertson?
I'm cheerful enough to break your neck.
And taking 2 from 3, you must be Michael Doe.
We've been waiting for 2 hours, Inspector.
Yes. Why have you had me arrested?
It's a habit of mine, Mrs. Kingston, when a murder's been committed.
Well, then we are under arrest.
For the time being, Miss Robertson. Now, if you'll excuse me for a moment, I've been working on another case, and there's some papers on my desk that I...
You've no right to keep us here.
Please, Kathy.
Well, he hasn't, Michael, not without charges.
Just wait and try to be calm.
Very interesting.
There's nothing incriminating in what I said, Inspector.
Oh, no. I wasn't referring to that. It's this memo. Good news.
Well, I'm not going to wait here and let you waste my time.
Mrs. Kingston, this building is full of policemen.
Pity sake, Kathy, stop being so nervous.
If he has anything to say to us, he
I
has...
have. One of you killed Fenimore Kingston this morning.
I wasn't home.
You were out driving. But who saw you, Mrs. Kingston?
What?
It takes at least 2 to make an alibi.
But surely you don't think that I...
Well, you're out of your mind, Inspector. She married him only 3 months ago.
And then she changed her mind. She thought how nice it would be to marry you.
Inspector...
It's all right, Kathy. He's just fishing.
But that wasn't the reason Kingston was killed. What?
Look out for him when he pitches curves.
You know the reason, Miss Cloverton.
Oh, now I'm it, huh?
Kingston found out that his famous diamond had become an imitation.
My ring?
This morning, he took it out of the wall safe. The thief, the person who had made the substitution, was in the room with him. And Kingston was shot in the back and killed.
Don't look at me, Inspector. I wasn't there.
How about you, Mrs. Kingston?
I told you.
Yes, yes. And you, Mr. Doles?
I didn't know anything about Fenimore's death until Catherine phoned me.
Then you admit that she phoned?
Of course, it's no secret. I was Fenimore's cousin.
And you were making sure that Catherine stayed in the family?
Now, look here, Inspector.
Excuse me, please. Yes? All right. In a few minutes. I'll call you. Now, this memo becomes very important.
May we go now?
Don't rush me, Mrs. Kingston.
But if you're going to work on another case...
I'm not. An imitation of the Kingston diamond was made. And by a strange coincidence, shortly after Fenimore Kingston was murdered, the workroom of a diamond cutter was robbed.
What's that got to do with us?
Miss Cloverton, tell me what you know about Rudolf Leibniz.
What I know? Look, I may get around,
Would
but
you
that...
like to see him?
All right, it'll make you happy.
I'll ask him to come in. What? He's in a room down the hall, Mr. Doze. I had him brought here from the hospital.
From the hospital?
He wasn't dead.
You're lying.
Murphy, bring Leibniz in
No.
here.
No. No.
Never mind. Send in a stenographer. We're going to take a confession. Hello.
Inspector McKee, I'm sorry to be bothering you at your home, but when I return to headquarters this evening...
What is it, Cassidy?
Well, it's about that fella Michael Dole.
He killed his cousin, Fenimore Kingston.
Well, that's what the boys told me, but I'm...
He took the diamond and had the imitation put in.
You don't say.
About 3 weeks ago.
Well, how did he get hold of it?
That was very simple. Catherine wore the ring at a house party. Doles mentioned to Fenimore that the diamond needed cleaning and that he could take care of it for him.
Oh, so he took the stone down to Leibniz and had an imitation made.
That's right. It was so good that Fenimore didn't notice it right away. But this morning...
Ah, yes, this morning.
It's all in the confession, Cassidy.
Oh, then Kingston knew right away who had stolen the real diamond, didn't he now?
Yes, he did know.
Oh, Inspector, get along with you. Then why did he bother to phone that Amy Cloverton girl?
We'll never know, Cassidy. Maybe he was anxious to turn the clock back to better times.
And so closes tonight's Crime Club book, Dead Man Control, based on a story by Helen Riley. Stedman Coles did the radio adaptation. Roger Bauer produced and directed. Ted Osborne played Inspector McKee. Alice Frost was Catherine Kingston. Elspeth Eric was Amy. Sherling Oliver was Michael Dolge. And Barry Thompson played Cassidy. Oh, I beg your pardon. Hello, I hope I haven't kept you waiting. Yes, this is the Crime Club. I'm the librarian. Yes, come over a week from tonight. We have a very unusual story of a will that had the power to kill. It's called Silent Witnesses by John Stephen Strange. In the meantime, there is a new Crime Club book available this week and every week at bookstores everywhere. Yes, it's available now. Fine. And we'll look for you next week. Oh, yes. The United States Merchant Marine is offering this opportunity to young men between the ages of 16 and a half and 21. If you are an American citizen and a high school graduate, you are qualified to take the test for enrollment in the Merchant Marine Cadet Corps. Graduates of the Corps are qualified for a license as deck or engineer officer in the Merchant Marine or to a commission as ensign in the Naval Reserve or in the Maritime Service. Discharged veterans of the armed services and the Merchant Marine are eligible for the test up to their 24th birthday. They are also allowed 5 additional points on the test. The test is competitive and will next be held on April 4th.
This program came from New York. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
From 76 years ago, March 20th, 1947, the Crime Club on this Monday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage, classicradio.stream. Stream our shows on demand. Learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me, find our social media links, and if you're so inclined, you can buy me a coffee. The Buy Me a Coffee money helps us acquire additional classic radio collections and keeps our distribution channels up and running. classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.